Hi all, thanks for checking out another podcast, or thanks for listening if you're listening. This week we spoke to Analogue Holly. She's one of the front ambassadors. We're super glad that she's finally come on the podcast. She's busy, really, really busy. She's been working on a lot of things. It was really nice to talk to her in a little bit more detail about what she's been doing, what she's working on. One of those things is Analogue Spotlight. We won't say too much now because she
explains it all.
Yeah, she covers exactly what it is, which it's really, really good. It's definitely excited to see that develop and grow, and definitely be a part of it in our own way. This is the Analogue Holly episode. We won't talk for too long. We just want to give you a little update on front as well. Thank you for everyone who's registered to the mailing list. We're honestly blown away. I know we keep saying it, but we put out another, we try not to mention it too much over on our Instagram account, which if you're not following already, hit the link below and check us out. That's where we do most of our updates. We want you to register to the mailing list. That basically lets you know when the website is going to be launched, when the front platform will be launched. And Luke, are they going to have any kind of benefits from doing that?
Well, Jamie,
I'm
glad you asked. So if you're on the mailing list, basically, you'll be the first people to find out when we launch. There'll be a launch offer, and then there's a couple of other bits that we're working on that we don't want to say about now in case they don't happen, but it's definitely worth being on there. And we've done loads of work actually on it over the last week or so. There's quite a lot of things have happened, including like some of the legal regulations around signing up for it when you're not based in the UK. That was something hadn't actually figured needed sorting. So that's like a new one that's all in there now, and like loads of bits and bobs like that keep cropping up. So there's loads of things that have happened. It's moving along nicely.
Yeah, that's good. So like we said, register them to the mailing list. The link will be down below. And there, we don't send out any junk mail. I think we've sent 2 emails in the last 12 months.
We've sent 2.
2 emails in the last 12 months. So, we're not those kind of people. We just simply want you to be aware of when we launch the website so you can have the best opportunity to get on the platform as early as possible and give us some feedback. But by the time it actually launches, which is coming soon, we're confident that the website will be in a good place for everyone. If you're not following us over on Instagram, go and do so. And also, if you do like these podcasts, or if you are watching on YouTube, think about subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and check out some of our other videos as well, which again, they're coming more regularly now. Stay tuned. Enjoy this episode. Drum roll, please. So I guess we want to start off how we do with everyone and welcome you. Thanks for joining us, Holly.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself in 3 words? No, I'm joking. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into photography, and kind of what you're doing briefly at the moment, and then we'll kind of deep dive into it a little more.
That is a very loaded question.
It is, yeah.
How does anyone answer this? So, okay, chronologically, I first got into film photography in 2015 when my dad gave me his old camera that had been sat in the loft. But I did put photography to one side when I started having children. I had all these like romantic notions of, I'm going to load black and white film and I'll take pictures in the hospital and it will be so romantic and gorgeous. And then I had like the most traumatic birth with my first ever, that I then didn't touch like any of my cameras, digital or whatever, until the first lockdown happened, and I started seeing a therapist because I really did get I was fine, but that really just knocked me. And she was like, you need to find something for yourself because you really just become mum. That's all you are. That's all you're doing. So I started looking at all the cameras because I by this point I already had quite a collection. So I started looking at them. I was like, right, okay, I'm going to get out. And that's what brought me back to it. And I decided to set up like an online learning log that really was just me and my friend Eve, Digital Eve. I didn't advertise it really much. I had an Instagram account with like 0 followers. And I just documented, I've shot a roll of film and this is my thoughts on it. And then Sroyan, who works for and writes for 35mmc, he reached out and he was like, I really like what you say. Do you want to write for 35mmc? And I was like, oh my God.
Amazing. Yeah.
Not realizing that everyone writes for 35. I'm just joking. But that really got me quite excited, and it really snowballed from there. And of course, COVID has been hard for everyone, but I went back to work after my second maternity leave in the October after COVID. And it became apparent pretty quickly that I was really unhappy at work, because when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had absolutely no idea. So I just joined a firm that paid well and worked my way up, but I wasn't happy there. Like, it doesn't excite me. I worked in tax.
Right.
Woo!
I worked in finance.
So I was just
6 months ago that I quit my job because, well, I've had to get another job. Unfortunately, we're not millionaires yet, but I was the same as you. I was sitting there and, I was earning comfortable money. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't, I was comfortable, but I was miserable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to get my creative juices flowing, which is exactly what you've done, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, I documented it a little bit on my YouTube channel, but I literally broke. Like, I was just not functioning. My health was all over the place. Like, I was having heart palpitations, headaches. I couldn't stay awake, eat at my desk. Like, I literally couldn't do a single job. And I was, I sat down with my husband and I just said, I have to stop. And so we've made it work. Like, it's very terrifying. Having gone from just like, I went from school into a comfortable paying job. Like, I never even did uni, so I didn't even have to deal with overdrafts or anything. Like, I just went into a comfortable paying job. And then to go from that to being like, right, where is my next paycheck going to come from? I'd already said I'll be quite happy to work in a pub a couple of nights a week. Like, I'd love that just for the social interaction after having been at home for so long. But I was very fortunate. I left work and I already had a couple of small jobs lined up that are monthly recurring payments. So I've been okay. But it's given me the time to work on everything else that is going on. And obviously when I met you at the photography show, I think, I hadn't actually officially left my job. I was in like my 2-week annual leave before the cut-off date, but I had left. So that was me going around like saying to everyone, like, I've just left my job, like, let's work together and do something.
I remember meeting you and you're full of energy and excited about it, but I don't know, like, I know we don't speak every day, but we stay in contact. But I think that just kind of oozes out of your positivity, which is encouraging. It's motivating to see, and I think you can see that in your work and your videos as well. And that's only going to grow. Do you know what I mean? I think that will grow, whatever direction it kind of goes in. I know you've got projects that you've got going on, but you personally, that will definitely go forward and thrive.
Thank you. I'm like a different human being though since leaving work.
Yeah, definitely.
Or I'm like the old me. I'm like the me that I used to know at school.
I guess when you're working and you've got the itch to try something, until you actually take the leap and do it, then you're never really going. You're always going to be going, oh, what if? But really, if you take the plunge, even if it doesn't work out, that's anything in life, isn't it? If it doesn't work out, then but equally, like, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And for me, if I'd left any sooner, I don't think I'd have had the contacts in the industry to do what I'm doing. I think if I'd left any sooner, it would have been a failure. Yeah.
That's like nice to know.
Yeah. You spoke about 35 mmc.
Yeah.
So for those watching or listening, what is 35 mmc?
So 35 mmc is a community blog, a photography blog, set up and run by Hamish Gill, who also owns Pixelator, F8 Creates. I had to ask him recently for a list of all of his business. He runs the Kiln in Worcester, and he is creating lenses now under the name Omnar lenses or something. Like, they're for the real connoisseurs. Like, those are expensive lenses, like hand crafted lenses. Like, they're insane. I've not been lucky enough to try one yet, but
No.
so he runs that, and I started by writing for him. He then got me on board to try and source other people to start writing, like new voices, and then now I help him with the editing as well, so I review people's articles on there as well.
Great, that's good.
Yeah, there'll be a link down below, or if you're listening, there'll be a link in the description to 35mmc.
Yeah,
well worth checking out. It's very informative, and we like it, so go check it out.
Yeah, he's great as well. Like, he's really dry and funny. Like, anytime I've ever seen him on anything, he's just like, he strikes a good balance between appearing like he kind of doesn't really care about anything and like just being really amusing with it.
He just is who he is.
Yeah.
I've been writing on my own like little learning log, which is still out there, and I do still write on it. Although I do maintain my photography stuff over on 35mmc. That's where I write about photography. But I did after that start reaching out to more people to say, look, I'd really love to try writing for you. A few things happened, a few didn't, and ultimately now I don't really have the time to take on any extra writing things. So I've got a few articles on, or one, oh god, how many have I got on? There's at least one on Analogue Wonderland, and then shoot it with film as well. But yeah, that was all very early on in 2020, and then since I've left work, which I can't actually believe is like not even 6 months yet. Like, it feels like I haven't been there for a really long time.
Longer than that, yeah.
So yeah, I've not really done too much because I've been focusing on other stuff. But yeah,
that's good though. It's a good position to be in, that you're like too busy to take on other work. And it's a hard thing to turn down as well when you're self-employed. Like, I'm self-employed, and I'm like just constantly taking on new stuff. It seems to be so much stuff coming through at the moment, and you're like,
well, none of it's paid. This is the thing, isn't it? Writing for other people's websites isn't paid.
yeah. So you have to kind of it's like balancing out the stuff that you want to do with the stuff that's gonna pay.
Exactly, yeah. And then you've got childcare thrown into the mix. So every time the kids are ill, you have to then prioritize the paid work over the stuff that's just going to boost your profile, as it were, don't you? So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's really hard. Like, I've got 3 children, and they are like they take up a lot of time. And it's like, I regularly will be like, right, everyone's in bed, I'm just going to work till like 1 a.m, so I can get up at 7. And
it's weird because sometimes Luke will text me at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, or I'll text him and I'll be like, just had an idea for so and so. He texts me back, and I'm like, oh, mate, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. He's like, no, it's all right, I'm just sitting here doing some work. Or sometimes I won't hear from him because he's literally crashed. Well, I'm assuming you've crashed, or you're just ignoring me, but either way, it's okay.
Both. One of the
yeah. I can't relate to the childcare side. I mean, I've got a little dog. He takes up enough of my time, but yeah, I can't imagine kids yet.
So, like, Analogue Spotlight, then what's it'd be good to actually say what more. I read your post explaining more about it, but it's always nice to hear it directly from you. So, like, if you want to explain more.
So
in a nutshell, what is it?
So as I said at the beginning, this is the first time I'm talking publicly about it. So I think what I'm going to have to do, I haven't perfected the elevator pitch. I'm going to have to do the long-winded version, because that's the only way I know how to talk about it.
Right.
So essentially, the Analogue Spotlight was a group of businesses who joined together. It was mostly, people who were mates in the industry, including Paul at Analogue Wonderland and Hamish at 35mmc, who would come together and chat about what they wanted to achieve. And that was how the Analogue Spotlight section at the photography show was organised.
Okay.
And that's how they came to sponsor Nico's photography show on YouTube, because he was about to put his photography show behind a paywall, and they obviously wanted to make sure it stayed public. So they clubbed together to sponsor him. But ultimately, because they are all businesses who need to spend the time running their businesses, they didn't have time to take it anywhere else and to think about all the things that it could achieve. And so when I came along and I was like, oh yeah, I'd be happy to help coordinate the next event that they're planning in May. And then they started to fill me in on various things. I started having all these like thoughts like, oh, we could do this and this would be really great and that would be amazing. And so I pulled together like a business proposal to pitch to Hamish and Paul, and they loved it. And so the idea behind it is the group that were already the Analogue Spotlight, to me, felt like, as I say, a mates club. And that's not what we want. We want to reach more people. I'm trying to think, I think it was like a techno industry day where they had all these businesses come in, and there was a photo of all the businesses that were there. And some like people were commenting on the photo saying, you're all white men, like, why is there no representation? And so that became like a key part of it. Like, that has to be our goal. Like, we need to go out and find these people, reach them and bring their voices into the conversation. So it started out as, you know, a conversation about what we want for the community. And then obviously you have to consider, okay, well, how does that then bring in money in order for you to do that? How can you support the community? And so then we started thinking about all the benefits that people might enjoy, and, you know, things like the events. How can we make sure we've got more of those happening? And yeah, it just sort of snowballed from there. Yeah. So it comes from a place of wanting to give back to the community, and has become a business out of that, or will become a business out of that. So
it's a lot like what we're trying to do at Front. You know, it's for the community. It's a business around that, and we're in a position where, you know, we haven't launched the site yet, but it's amazing the messages we get on a daily basis of support, and, you know, when's it coming, so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, you've grown an amazing community.
Yeah, and
without even a business behind it yet.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, we, like, it's only like a couple of weeks ago we really announced what Front is going to be at stage 1, let alone stage 2, 3, and so on.
Yeah.
And same with, you know, Analogue Spotlight. You know, we can collaborate in the future, and that's not just with Front, but you're in a position where you can collaborate with other businesses and bring them all together and grow the community. And
well, this is the thing, like, one of the things is I don't want anyone to think that this is me coming in and saying I know what's best, or we're going to start moving everything onto this one platform and we're going to compete with everyone. Like, the idea is we want to identify any gaps where things are falling through the net. So say people might be interested in print sales, and we'd then bring, you know, we'd say, right, how can we add your stuff and work together on bringing it to more people, you know, like, it's definitely not about reinventing the wheel. Like, I don't want to
like you said, it's very much contributing to the community, and it's kind of becoming its own branch of that community.
And you know, one of the things which I'm really keen to do is have steering groups. So say someone who's going to, or a group of people who are going to feed into us on environmental issues, people who are going to feed into us on race and discrimination issues, people who are going to feed into us on disability. Like, we, you know, I don't ever want anyone to think that I think I know everything. I'm gonna get everyone's advice, and that's partly what this survey is about. Is saying, what do you think? Like, how can we do better? What is needed out there? Yeah.
Well, if you haven't already, if you are listening to this or you're watching this, click the link below. There will be a link there for Analogue Spotlight to fill out the survey, which is kind of stage 1 before it all starts. We did it the other day. It takes 5 minutes, if that. It's easy, but it's very, very useful to do. So yeah, if you haven't, please do it.
And it's one survey, whether you're an individual or a business, it will take you to the different sections. So
yeah, I was a bit unsure what to do, to be honest, because I was like, well, we're not really a business yet. But
you can do it. You can do it multiple times.
Yeah,
once as a
right,
business,
yeah.
and then once as an individual. That's perfectly okay. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to what you said at the start then about, you were saying, oh, it's a bunch of white men that are doing it. We actually had our first ever comment today on Instagram, didn't we?
Yeah, I saw.
First negative.
Yeah, I tagged you in it, didn't I? Yeah.
You felt bad because you were like, oh, I've only just seen it, and they said it like 5 hours ago, and I should have replied sooner.
Well, yeah, let's give you the back.
Oh, yeah. So you say what it
basically,
is.
every Sunday, we like to do this thing called Share the Love, or I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like This Week's Love or whatever. And everyone that's used our hashtag, I go through on a Sunday morning and I pick out effectively 10 of my favourites, which is really, really hard to do. There's at least a couple of, well, I don't know how many people who use that hashtag now. I think it's like 50,000 or something like that.
Mental now, isn't it?
It takes me an hour to look through the photos, which I try and do every day anyway. Just go onto our hashtag, like, comment, support, feedback as much as we can. And that's just, because we want to do that for the community, right? Which I know you do with your community and, interlink together. That's why we wanted you as an ambassador for fun. It's not about the size of the following, it's about the attitude to what you're doing, and your humbleness. But yeah, so every Sunday morning I look forward to it. I wake up, I sit on my phone for an hour, I look through some photos, I comment on them, and then I save 20, and then I have to narrow it down to 10 because obviously Instagram will only let me post 10. But yeah, and it just so happened that 9 out of 10 of them this week were male. But yeah, and but
you're picking images. You're not looking through people's profiles. So that was my thing. I was like, you don't know if they were men or women or trans or non-binary or whatever that you picked. You picked some images. And if you look back through every single one of the posts that we've done and all the podcasts that we've done and the ambassadors that we have, who that's not like that post isn't representative of what we're doing at all.
Oh, yeah. We didn't pick you because you were female. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, well, I think like the important thing to do is look back through your previous posts and work out whether there is a problem or not. Like,
yeah.
Well,
I mean, obviously you didn't set out to be in any way discriminatory, but it's perhaps saying, okay, well, I am going to just reflect on it and think about it.
Oh yeah, and that's it. It might have not been meant in a malicious way whatsoever, but it was enough for me to go, have I done something?
Yeah. And equally, taking that time to sit down and think about your response is much better than firing off a quick reaction. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's got their right to an opinion. Eve is very good at telling me to think about things because I'm certainly not.
You don't know who Eve is. Eve is Holly's friend. You've seen her in her videos, and if you haven't, go watch the videos. She'll come on the podcast one day with you, Holly. That's what I say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to meet her in Birmingham at the photography show last year. It was amazing.
Yeah.
People that we've asked to be ambassadors, we've asked them because, like Jamie says, it's based on like, it's not even like necessarily about your work. It's just like, who are you and your attitude, and like we just sort of like who you are.
We support what you're doing. Yeah.
We've got 7 ambassadors and we've got 4 women and 3 men. That wasn't done on purpose. So there does become a bit of a complicated kind of conversation around it, where you're like, if you were only picking women because they were women, is that any better?
It's a very tough subject, and I think this is something that I wanted to bring to the network, to the Spotlight network, is that you, as a business, you have so much of your time taken up being a business that perhaps having some guidance on this, or I don't know, some resources or some help like that would be of benefit to you as a business, alongside all the other things that we're hoping to offer. And so that, that's on my mind, that there's a lot to navigate, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to reflect on, and maybe we could help like that. It
is interesting as well, and like I wonder, like that person who commented, like obviously it's totally like valid thing to say, and do they, but like it's like, where does that come from? I think it comes from a place of feeling underrepresented, or maybe not feeling, like being underrepresented in the kind of analog community, or in any community really, it's, you certainly like don't have necessarily like the loudest voices, or when, you know, whatever it is. And the kind of like, I suppose that was what, if that was a question, like, what do you think? Like, is that right? Is that where it comes from?
I think it is hard. It is hard being a woman, and therefore I can empathize with anyone who comes from an even less represented group, how difficult it is to and it's not even necessarily like having your voice heard, but it's feeling comfortable. So like there are some groups on, say, Facebook that are all analog, and whilst there are women members, I think a lot of us don't post or comment because there's a lot of sort of men talking down to you, generally older men, generally set in their ways. But you just get to a point where you're like, I can't be bothered and I don't want to. And I think that, you know, there'll be people who are just feeling so frustrated with it that as soon as, like, you know, you as a small business come along and make a mistake, they're immediately on it, even whether it's a mistake or whether it's, you know, just you know, like
something that happened.
Whereas like there was that lady I'm sure you've had her on here, who wrote to Kodak. She did an open letter to Kodak about representation, and like I think that's really valid about a business as big as that, who clearly have a dedicated social media team. They should be making more of an effort. Like they should know better. And whereas a small business like you know, you're just two guys who are just in your spare time trying to get this business off the ground. You know, you don't have a dedicated social media team.
Well, it's Jamie really, but like
and again, that's and everything I do on Instagram, you know, well, it's Luke as well, but it tends to be me that runs it, like looks after it, shall I say. But we very much collaborate, or I tend to ask him for his advice before I do something normally. But
just go in and correct your spelling mistakes after.
That is 100% accurate. I can't spell, even on that reply to that Instagram post, I spelled something wrong.
But when I think all we're trying to do with our social media is make it, because we haven't got the website and we know what we want the website to be, in terms of who we're putting out, like who we're shouting about is people who are not being shouted about anywhere else. And that was one of the reasons that we started doing it, because I don't follow them much anymore, but I was following on Instagram a lot of what do you call them, like photo sharing sites where like you know, or pages, use our hashtag and we'll share, and they've got tens of thousands of followers. And after a while I was like, they just share the same stuff all the time. It's the same photos getting shared across all these different accounts. And they were like, it'll be like analog thing, and it's not even it's not a film photo. It's just like got some grain added to it. There's a one that gets shared all the time of two like young women on a race track, like a sports racetrack, and they've got like white t-shirts on, and it gets shared on all these analog film things, and it's shot on digital, and it's really frustrating that you just see these same things all the time. Or they just share really famous people, and you're like, because they know it will get likes and comments and whatever, but it's so dull and it's so boring. And people like me were the people who are using their hashtags all the time and getting all of that traffic to their page, but they're not sharing people like me. So if you were the first person to share one of my photos on your funny film TikTok, whatever it was,
I mean, I
can't remember what that was.
That did not gain traction.
But like a lot of the time
people prefer serious photos to funny ones, unfortunately.
It's weird, isn't it? But I always feel like we end up talking about social media to everyone that we have on the podcast, but it's interesting because
everyone's doing it.
Everyone uses it differently, but not in a bad way.
Like we wanted to put on the front website, that's what it's going to be. Going to be different people put on the homepage all the time. It's not going to be based on how many people are viewing. We might almost do it as an inverse thing. So if you're getting less people to your page,
that's a brilliant idea.
Homepage. If you want to come on the podcast and then you can just ask us and we'll have you on, kind of thing.
Mm.
And we've got loads of plans for how we're going to shout about people who are using it once it's all launched. But that is it. When you click search on the website, it randomly brings up, if you search street, you tag your photos in the back end of the website, and it brings up a random selection of street photos. Photos tagged as street. It doesn't bring them up in order of like popularity, and every time you refresh that page, it just brings up new ones every single time. So
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Chance, of getting
which
seen.
is kind of our way of building the community. But at the same time, if you have a front profile, you can rave and chat about your profile you want and get people to your page. That's what people want, right? But from our side, of people that are coming across it or discovering us for the first time, we want to show everyone, not the people that have 5 million followers or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's important because the art of it is picking up the camera and going out and taking photos, digital, analog, whatever you want to do. It's a community of photographers, right? Or even artists. It could, like, because you can have prints on there, you can have drawings, paintings, whatever can be printed. But it's about having this community of people.
So you're going to do art as well, are you?
Well, if you're...
it's aimed at photographers, but you know, in reality, if anybody wants to, if people are happy to have their work printed in that manner, then obviously, absolutely.
One of my friends is a tattoo artist, and he draws all day, or tattooing. But he would sell prints. Like, he every now and then he'll do a painting or a drawing, he'll print it and sell it through his Facebook. But he has to go out and chase that sort of thing, where you could have a front profile and still sell prints. Do you know what I mean? We've only kind of based it heavily around photography because that's what me and Luke like, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be around that. And I'm sure it will be predominantly photography.
Yeah.
If you print your artwork, then it can be anything. I don't know how we've gone off talking about front there, but
that's
well, it is the front podcast, so
but this is the Holly episode. We want to talk about you, but I do want to talk about the YouTube channel, because obviously so I can't remember how we actually discovered you. I think it might have been through Analogue Wonderland. I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
Did you do a video with Analogue Wonderland?
I did. I don't know whether it was that. I think it was the article I did on sustainable options, and
that's it. You
did the Wonderbox judging. I think that's one of the. I remember watching that, and I think that's when I first saw you.
I seem to have these like periods where like loads is happening. So I got invited on that because I launched the YouTube channel. I'd been writing for various people, and then that's when we were like just starting to talk about the book that we were creating. And then obviously now I've got the Analogue Spotlight stuff, and the book is so close. Close.
So with the YouTube channel then, because we followed you since day one, right? And I think it's great. It's so relatable. But then I see your studio at home, and I'm like, this is what this room should be. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can see it happening. And then I can see your, and even I think your last video was like you changing the studio around or workspace around a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was so relatable, because everyone said to me and my fiance that when we bought the house, just live in it. And we're like, no, we want it to look like this, and this, and made it look like we wanted. But then after a year of living here, we were like, that's just not practical. And
you work at how you use a space. Yeah.
But you've got so many different, because I wouldn't class you as just a photographer, right? So there's so many different outlets that you have, and I've seen your studio space that you do darkroom printing, you've got sewing, I think it is, or knitting, or whatever it is. You've got
not knitting, no.
You've got paints, you've got pens, whatever it might be. Are you in there a lot, or as much as time allows you around life? Is that?
I am definitely now. Yeah, I mean, I used to sit in this room quite a lot to work, but I'm finding I feel a lot more energized in that room. So I now sit up there to do all my work because I just love it up there. But yeah, no, I am like I don't even know what you call me. I did find like this group of people that call themselves the multi-potentialites. Basically, it's the people who can never find like a hobby. They have to have like 700 hobbies. And that is me. Like, and not only that, but I get like obsessed with something, and I like, you know, and I'm always looking up, say, university courses. I didn't go straight after school, but now like I'm like, I want to do English literature, I want to do classical studies, I want to do a photography degree, I want to do anything, you know, like there's so many things that I just get obsessed with. And I mean, I've got some books here, I have like a whole shelf in the hallway that like I've just been filming a new darkroom update, and because we're decorating our bedroom now, one of my bookshelves has had to go into my darkroom, along with like a random sofa is just placed in there. So yeah, I've got books everywhere. And I got really heavily into non-fiction after having children, and then in the last year I'm suddenly back obsessed with fiction. And I think I started reading fiction again in June last year, and I read 71 books last year. Like, nice. What? In January, I read 20 books this year.
Wow. So when you say you've read 20 books, right?
Yeah.
So the only reason I'm saying this is I remember I went on like a business course, must have been 5 or 6 years ago. And part of that course, it was basically telling me how to, and I'm not a big reader, right? I love a photo book. Don't get me wrong, I can read a magazine, I can read I read the news and stuff like that, but I can't sit there and read. I'd rather watch a film. It's just how I am, right?
Yeah.
But on this course, I got taught how to speed read.
Oh.
Which apparently you only read like 1 in 5 words or something like that. So you can basically fly through a book and you kind of get the gist, and then you can narrow down on the bits that are most of interest to you. But what I heard when they taught me that is download the audio version and just play it in three times the speed.
Yeah.
How I end up reading like.
So I have recently discovered increasing the speed on audiobooks, but on Audible, I don't know if I'm weird, but I can only get up to about 1.35 before it becomes unintelligible and I can't do it. Where some people are like, yeah, I listen on 3 times speed. What? Like, it must be just them going.
I read a book called You Do You, but I can't remember who it is. She's an amazing author. She's done loads of books. She's done a book called You, No Fucks Given or something like that. I can't remember. I'll get to it. Really good, like self-help kind of books. But I listened to them in, I think it was point 2, and obviously the author's reading it and I'm listening to it. But after, you know, like 3 days of me listening to a couple of chapters here and there, I put it on speed 1. And I thought she had the deepest voice and was talking really slow. But really, she wasn't. It was just really normal. I just got used to. And it actually relates to Lord. And I actually watched Lord of the Rings. The first time I ever watched Lord of the Rings, I watched it in 1.5 because they were so long.
Yeah.
My friends were like, we've got to watch them today. And we ended up watching all 3 Lord of the Rings pretty much back to back, but in 1.5 speed. So you could still hear it. It wasn't the same, and then I watched it back normally. I was like, oh, this is how you should be watching it.
Yeah,
just how the director intended. That's
I mean, especially with the little hobbits, they already speak quite high.
Yeah, it was like, I'm taking the gas Isengard, I'm taking that's what it was. That's what it was. And there was this big, because I was never that fussed about Lord of the Rings. I was more into Harry Potter, I think. And then my friends were like, you've got to watch Lord of the Rings, and it was like a hungover day 10 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think I was like majorly ill, and I spent like a couple of days just back to back watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
They're amazing, but like finding the time to sit down and watch them.
Yeah.
Definitely not once you become a parent. Like, my advice that if you take anything from this podcast, and watch Lord of the Rings before you have children.
Now there's the Hobbit, and now there's that TV show as well, isn't there? There's the Lord of the there's a new TV show coming out of Lord of the Rings.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen the Hobbit. Maybe I have. I don't know.
It's good to be fair. But yeah, so going back to the YouTube channel then.
No, wait. I was going to ask for recommendations. Like, if you've read that, I read a lot of books, but nowhere near that many.
Yeah.
So like, but I always want
5 in January.
My top 5. So
Fiction,
unfortunately, all the photography ones that I read last month are upstairs in my darkroom because I'm going to do a video on them.
Yeah.
But one that I want to mention that is a pandemic photography related book is called Hold Still that was published by the National Portrait Gallery. Of all, because obviously I've been collecting the pandemic related books because of the book that I've created.
Yeah.
That one of all of them is the one I would recommend to buy, because it is just amazing. I think I welled up 3 times reading it. It was just so beautiful. And it, for me, it was one of the books that best represented the real experience of the pandemic. It wasn't just going out and documenting empty streets, it was actual people, and that was just so beautiful. And then equally, I read that month the worst pandemic related photography book I've ever read, and I don't think I'm going to mention it. I have to talk about it in my video.
Yeah,
this will be a little taste, like you have to watch it now to find out what the worst one is. But essentially it was like what do they call it, like it was just a really self-centered book for the photographer. Like it was a proper power play, like I'm so brilliant, this is my picture for this theme, and then here are lots of tiny little pictures from the public that you have to then go and cross-reference a back blurb to even find out who took the picture, and they're too small to even see what's going on. Like it was just dreadful. It was dreadful. And then the book that I now want to literally tell everyone to go and read is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It's a fiction book. Oh God, like I was putting off reading it because everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
But it is the book that I wish I had read when I was going through all of the like worst of my depression. Like it is so spot on. Like the tone it's lighthearted enough that even when you're in a deep depression, you could still read it without feeling like you're being dragged down. But the messages in it are just beautiful. Like the things it suggests about life and how you're living life and how you can change things, and little things like doing things for the joy of it and not necessarily to be anything, which I think a lot of us are quite guilty of. Like as photographers, like sometimes it can feel like you're taking photos to prove to everyone that you can take photos, whereas just going out and enjoying it, like it was such a good book.
Well, that kind of refers to what I was going to ask you, because I know that you mentioned in a recent video of yours, I think it might have even been your last video, about why we develop our own film, or why we have our own photographs, and you said that it's for social media, which it really made me think when you said that. Like I've started developing my own film at home, just black and white, and I really enjoy it. It's like almost like therapeutic, right? Until it goes wrong, and then you just, I don't know, I feel like smashing my kitchen up. But in its own way, it's. I used to say, I know this sounds silly, but I used to play like computer games a lot, right? But it wasn't that I was obsessed with playing computer games. That was never the thing, because I used to just, like, I've always skateboarded, so I used to just play a skate game. But the way I describe it is that for me, if I played a game for an hour, I was switched off from the world. Do you know what I mean? Because you have to concentrate on the game that you're playing. So it made me not think about life, problems, work, whatever it might be. And that's how I feel when I develop my own film. I know it's half an hour that I've got to concentrate. Then I've got to look at the stopwatch and make sure all the timings are right. Then I've got to hang it up, and I can't rush it because it's got to be right. And then same with the scanning. I look at all the photos. I'm absorbed by them because I want to make sure that they're the best they can be in my eye. Then what you said made me think, well, I enjoy that. I've done all that. I've scanned all the photos in myself, when I could just pay a couple of quid and get it done. But then what have I got? Am I just going to post them to social media? Probably. Am I going to do anything else with them? Probably not. And I file them away. I make sure I sit there, and I quite often go through old photos. And that was going to be one of my questions to you. Do you ever go through some of your older works? I know that you do, and I know that you post older stuff. But do you have like a set rule to yourself where you're like, I'm not going to look at anything for a few weeks, or I'm going to wait X amount of time before I develop film?
I think that's a really interesting question. So I have recently been doing a lot of going back through old photos, including my old digital ones, which is going to be the basis of a video I've got coming up for when you launch, because my idea is my first images that are going to go on your website I have decided are going to be digital ones rather than analog ones, because I want to go back and say, do you know what, I did take good photos when I used digital. Just because now I've sort of found the medium that I most enjoy doesn't mean that those were any less.
No.
So I have been going through, and then this year I've also started a project 52, where I'm not going out and taking new photos. I am looking back through old photos, both digital and analog, and I'm going to choose an image to work with. And that, again, could be digital or it could be analog. And I think that I've got like the first section of that video going up this week, I think.
I'm guessing it's called Project 52 because that's how many projects you've got going on at the moment. And that's
yeah, exactly. I have 100,000 really, but yeah. So like what I've done is I've split it up into segments, and I want to work on a different idea or technique or something, and that's going to be, again, a mixture of digital and analog. So like this first chunk, it's not really spoiling it to say, I've been working on digital, but in collage. So I'm trying to use different images. They could be, again, analog or digital ones, but I've been doing it on my computer to create different types of collage. And then the next one, I'm going to be looking at color theory and learning a bit more about color theory. And then the next one is actually going to be more analog based, and it's going to be like using organic toners, like beetroot or coffee and tea on prints. So in that respect, I have been looking back through my old photos. Something else that I have found really interesting, I mention him all the time, Kit Young. If you don't already follow him, go and follow him. He is amazing. But
have you bought one of his prints? Am I?
Yes, I have one of his prints and I have one of his books. His book is one of the best photography books.
Yeah,
I have that one here, actually.
Because I remember again watching one of your videos. You were saying about the print. Again, it might have been one of the last. It might just be fresh in my head because I watched it like literally 2 days ago or whenever you released it. Yeah. You showed the prints around your house.
Yeah.
But again, just going back to why. Oh yeah. And I remember you saying about the paper quality. So on black paper.
Oh,
it's really nice.
But I think it's like, again, one of the reasons why we like you, Holly, is because you support all artists, right? And I know that you've got a print on your wall from an artist that you don't even know their name because you only know them from Instagram.
Well, yeah. So he's called like Photo Pete 11.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, I don't know his last name. Yeah. The thing is, I always go to talk about him, and then I realise then that I don't know his last name. So I'm like Kit Young, and then Pete.
Yeah. It's quite, and then I can see in the background in your room there, you've got 3 frames up without any photos in.
Yes.
And that's so reassuring to me because I've got one in my living room that is a blank frame, and I think A2, maybe A3, whatever size it is, and it has been empty for about a year.
Yeah, and it's because you're going to put one of your own images in it.
I keep saying, and to the point now where I've actually turned the sheet around, so it's now just like the back of paper, so it's like a sand colour.
I mean, I know when I was doing all my like corporate job conference calls and stuff in here, people thought it was like modern art.
Yeah. That's what I was just saying, like, because we've turned the sheet around now, so instead of it saying, I don't know, whatever frame, Tesco Express or whatever.
Long Viken from IKEA.
A cardboard piece of paper, but from a distance, because we've painted our room like an orangey yellow. It looks quite Moroccan sort of thing. But the frame now looks like it's sand in a frame. And everyone comes around and goes, "Oh, that's nice." I'm like, "Yeah, it was really expensive. That was. Yeah, I'll sell it to you if you want, but it's nothing, literally nothing."
Well, there's also like the shoes behind me. You know, way back when I was a teenager, those were on my bedroom wall. So those frames are going to be my prints. But right now, it just looks like I really like shoes.
I have the complete opposite problem. It's like I get the prints and I get the frames, and then I don't put the two together and put them on the wall. So like those have been on the floor under my desk for a year, and I've got like other empty frames, and I picked some more prints up today, and just like I know that they'll just sit around for ages.
I have 2 literally sat next to me.
I don't know what to do though, because I'm a bit scared because when front launches, I'm going to be buying quite a few prints, right?
You will, yeah.
I've only got so many walls, but I'm thinking, and I don't know if this, I don't know. Drop a comment if you've got a solution to this, but what do you do if you've got too many prints? Do you just keep them? Do you file them away and just look through them like it's your own book? So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy one of those nice art folders, because some prints are going to be small, some are going to be big, and I'm going to just keep them in that folder, maybe rotate them around the house from time to time. So I don't want to not buy a print because I haven't got space. That's the wrong attitude, I think. I think you should support the artist.
Yeah, if it gives you joy.
To say that you've owned.
I mean, to quote Marie Kondo,
yeah.
Does it spark joy?
Yeah.
My see, look, these are like my books are an art installation because they spark joy.
Yeah. So I think I've got to do that. I think I've got to buy the prints, and if I do, if I'm buying them to support the artist and say that I've got a print from this artist, even if I can't put it up, I'm going to have to keep it.
Or just find like really creative ways to put them up, like the toilet gallery.
Have to buy lots of little small prints, but no, I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I don't know if anyone else has got a solution to that, but I don't know what to do if I buy too much more.
No, well, as you say, I'm quite lucky because I've got space here I've got wall space at the very least.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, if you lived in like a tiny flat, I don't know how I would manage my prints.
My house isn't that big, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to run out of space quick. But I don't want to not buy them. Do you know what I mean? No. I can't wait to get some more prints.
Rotate through and hold mini exhibitions.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny because when I actually bought this house, I said to my girlfriend Vicky, fiance, I keep forgetting to say that. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but I'll say that. I said to her, I was like, upstairs, you can do whatever you want. You can have as many family photos, pictures of me and you, whatever. I do not care. But downstairs, I want it to be like a gallery. I don't want any photos of family. I don't want any photos of friends. They'll come around. We see them enough. I don't need a photo of them to remind me what they look like. I just want downstairs to be like a gallery with prints or posters or whatever it might be. And to be fair, we've kind of kept that. It still looks homely, don't get me wrong, but we haven't got any family. We haven't got any family photos of kids, anything, friends photos, nothing. They're all upstairs, which, I don't know, it inspires me to walk into my living room in the morning, walk through to the kitchen and go, oh, I like that, rather than going, oh, don't even see them anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, whatever works for you.
Yeah, exactly. We did get a couple of questions on Instagram, and I kind of narrowed. In fact, I might have to quickly look at them. Got a few. I know one of them would be if you had to choose a camera and a film stock for the rest of your days, what would it be? It's a hard one, that, isn't it?
I think the camera would be the easier one, which would be my Mamiya C330. It's medium format, twin lens.
Twin lens, yeah.
Yeah, I just love working with it, and I don't know why necessarily over anything else, but there's just something about it that it's just lovely. And somehow, even though I don't think the lenses are any better than some of my other lenses, but the images come out so crisp. And I'm not someone who chases sharpness in images. I mean, you can see from my feed I am not, but like when you get the negatives out of the developing tank, it's just like, wow. Yeah. Somehow that camera always packs a punch. Film stock, I was gonna say Lomachrome purple because I was just so happy with how the wedding photos turned out on Lomachrome purple, but I would have to say it will have to be black and white because I just love working with black and white. I love shooting it, I love the look of it, I love developing it, I love printing it, so it would have to be black and white, but I don't know which one.
It's a hard question for photographers, isn't it? Especially people that want to experiment. It's really hard unless you've got years and years of, just shooting the same one and that's you. Then
like you're tempted to say Ilford HP5 because it's so versatile and you could do basically anything with it. But I shot a series of portraits of Eve on Rolly RPX 400, which were stunning. I loved how silvery the highlights came out. I did a newborn shoot on Fuji Acros 2, which is too expensive in my mind, but those were beautiful. So it's really hard to say, but it would be black and white, and it would be the Mamiya, I think.
I don't know if you remember, Luke. I nearly bought that camera a couple of months back, probably about 6 months. Yeah, it's in our local camera shop, Skiers Photographic, if you haven't heard us say about it before. But the only reason I name drop them there is because we've got a good relationship with them. They've supported us, and they're kind enough to let us borrow a camera from time to time to make a video. But they had a Mamiya C330 or whatever it is. Can't remember. Yeah. And I went to buy it, and the only reason I didn't is that I think it was the shutter button was snapped off or something. It'd been repaired, but like bodged. They hadn't actually they hadn't repaired it themselves.
Yeah.
And it was cheap. It was cheap, and it had like a weird, like sounds a bit weird, but there was like a stain on it, like a fungus growing on it or something. It looked like a melted baby bell, the skin around a baby bell. But that was just on the camera. It wouldn't affect. It wasn't on the lens. It wasn't in the camera. It was absolutely fine. And I said to him, I was like, yeah, put it to one side. And I put it to one side for a week. But I said, look, if you can sell it, sell it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they sold it pretty much straight away. So I couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant, and I was really lucky because the one I got came in like a proper protective box, and it had an extra lens and just everything with it. And it came at a time when I was still employed, so I did have some money to spend. But it was like the point where I'd said to myself, I am actually pretty good at this film photography lark, and so I can treat myself to a camera, because for some reason that camera had just always been on my like dream camera list. And so yeah, when one came out with a decent price and in such good condition, I was like, do you know what? Yes, I'm going to upgrade from my Pentacon 6. I am going to get this, but I still have my Pentacon 6. In fact, Peggy from Camera Go Camera is borrowing it at the moment. But,
nice.
Yeah.
You do that thing where you're like, I'm going to upgrade from this camera to this camera, but then
never
can't get rid of the old one because you still love it so much. And you're
like, I literally sold my Canon A1 and I bought a Minolta X700. And then, not that it's an upgrade in any way, it's kind of
just want something different.
Yeah, but I wanted to try it, and I missed the Canon A1. I love the Minolta X700, but I still miss my Canon A1, and I can't help it. And you know, I said to, like, I bought a Fujifilm X100F, and the whole idea of me buying that was that I was going to sell my little Ricoh GR2. So I bought the Fujifilm with all the intention of selling my Ricoh, and I've still got both cameras.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, you know, that could be a couple of £100 towards it. And then, yeah, I just never got around to doing it. And then I'm skint. Do you know what I mean? Skint for a couple of months. It's just how it is. I did get another question on Instagram, which was favourite paper for darkroom printing.
So I've only, in terms of brands, I've only tried Ilford. But I am obsessed with their cotton rag paper.
Okay.
That's the one I was using all through Vlogmas. It's a fiber-based paper, but it is like completely matte. It's basically like watercolor paper. And I absolutely love it. And I'm at the moment I'm sort of experimenting with different paints on top of it and different inks and things to see how they might be used. So
wow, that's really cool. That sounds really nice.
Very excited to see all these future stuff. Honestly, I look at what you do and I'm like, how have you got time and the resources to do all that? And plus there's got to be an element of trial and error with everything, right? You're not going to nail everything first try.
No, and I think that's one of the big things that I have to keep reminding myself for my YouTube channel, when I'm like, oh god, but I've done really rubbish with this. And I'm like, no, the whole point of it is that it's a learning process, and I want to share that with people. Like, I am not one of these YouTube channels where it's going to be like, this is how you do this, because I have done it 100 million times before. It's going to be, this is my first go. Look how spectacularly wrong it went.
I always watch the videos hoping that I'm going to see you dance some drum and bass as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I was just listening. There's like, is there a new Red Hot Chili Peppers song out? We have the radio on often, and there's a song, and I'm sure it's it sounds like Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I was thinking, Red Hot Chili Peppers would be amazing to do darkroom printing too. So
it sounds quite like that song. I can't remember what it's called, but it's only just come out.
The new one. So you've heard it, yeah. I really like it. I just thought that would be really good in the darkroom.
To be fair, I am obsessed with. Like, I listen to music all day. I have to. I've got headphones in or whatever. I've got to listen to music, and predominantly listen to like Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever it is, podcasts. But at my newer job where I am at the moment, there's only 3 of us in the office, and everyone likes different music. Everyone's nice, but everyone's into different music. But I unfortunately have like meetings and stuff to attend, so I can't sit with my headphones on because I might have to pick up the phone every other minute.
Yeah.
So we just listen to the radio now, and we listen to Radio X.
Yes, that's what you've heard it. Yeah, that's what we have on in our house.
It's actually a really good radio station. And to be fair, I forgot that Chris Moore is on that in the morning. I quite like him. He's a bit of an idiot. I still quite like him. And yeah, they must play that Red Hot Chili Peppers and the new Liam Gallagher song about 10 times a day at the minute.
Well, that's the only thing with Radio X is they do repeat songs, but
at least it's songs that I'm kind of into rather than I can't listen to like mainstream pop. It's just not what I'm into. But me and Luke both agreed that we like Taylor Swift, don't we?
I don't necessarily like listening to her songs, but I can appreciate her genius.
Oh yeah. I don't get me wrong, I can appreciate all musicians. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, have you ever seen a live performance by Little Mix? Like, not necessarily been there, but seen it on YouTube. Like some of their, I'm trying to think, like, is it MTV? I don't know, something. But they like put on such a show, and I'm like, what they've just done is incredible, but I don't necessarily like their music.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know Little Mix, but I took my girlfriend to V-Fest 4 or 5 years ago, and she is obsessed with Pink. And the only reason I bought a ticket is because Pink was headlining, and secretly Craig David was second from headlining. I love Craig David. But I watched Pink, and I don't know anything about her. And I was just like, yeah, not really my kind of thing, but you know, I've got to go. I've bought the tickets. She was incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. Like, every time I've listened to Pink, it's been good. But
and I've got this ongoing joke at the minute because we watched what's that film? A Star Is Born.
Oh right.
It's not Pink, but I call Lady Gaga, but it's like an ongoing joke in my house. And I want to watch that House of Gucci. I'm like, hasn't it got that Lady Gaga in it? Like, no, I don't know. Again, I appreciate her.
Yeah, definitely. But no, yeah, whether or not you like Taylor Swift's music, you've got to appreciate what she does, and she's re-recording all her albums to escape the patriarchy and stuff. So it's like, it's brilliant. But yeah, I just love her. Her and Kylie Rae Jepsen, I'm like, they're my favourites. Yeah.
Right. On that note, I think we should round things up. And the only reason I say that is I know it's been longer than an hour because my battery's about to die on my laptop. But Holly, there's so much more we want to talk to you about that I keep forgetting about. That you keep mentioning things like
the book,
Vlogmas,
and
various things that I've forgot about, and I'm sure Luke's the same. So you'll have to come on for another episode, I'm afraid. But yeah, you know, obviously we'll put this out soon enough. So yeah, stay tuned if you are listening. Thank you for listening.
Oh, I'll tell you what, final note then.
I was going to say, have you got a final note to close off with?
We are going to be holding our official launch event for the Analogue Spotlight on the 14th and 15th of May.
14th and 15th of May.
Yeah, and it's going to be an in-person event. Although we're hoping to also have some virtual stuff as well so that other people can join. More details to be announced, but hold it in your diaries, everyone.
So yeah, if you haven't already, go and follow Holly on Instagram. The link will be down below, and there'll also be a link for Analogue Spotlight and 35mmC.
And the survey.
Everything else Holly's involved with. There'll be quite a long list down below. But yeah, go check out what she's doing. I'm sure it'll motivate you. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned. She'll be on another episode soon enough.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2.